ẹ̀kọ́ dára púpọ̀, ẹ̀kọ́ ló láyé táwa yìí sẹ́. Ẹ̀kọ́ dára púpọ̀, ẹ̀kọ́ ló láyé táwa yìí sẹ́. Ẹ̀kọ́ ló ń gbé ní dẹni gíga, ẹ̀kọ́ ló ń gbé ní dépò ọlá. Ẹ dákun yé ẹ̀yin òbí wa, lẹ́bàá lówó kẹjọ kẹtọ́ wa. Ẹ̀kọ́ ló ń gbé ní dẹni gíga, ẹ̀kọ́ ló ń gbé ní dépò ọlá. Ẹ dákun yé ẹ̀yin òbí wa, lẹ́bàá lówó kẹjọ kẹtọ́ wa. Ẹ dákun yé ẹ̀yin òbí wa, lẹ́bàá lówó kẹjọ kẹtọ́ wa.
At the Okoli Law Group, we specialize in producing justice. If you or a loved one in the Atlanta metro area is facing serious criminal charges, then you need serious legal representation.
The Okoli Law Group is here for you. The Okoli Law Group is here for us.
The Okoli Law Group, serious legal representation.
Peace, family. We are live again. Hold on. Let me check the settings real quick. My audio. There we go. We're good to go. Peace, everyone. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do me a favor. Hit the like button again. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's support. It really means a lot. It really means a lot. I'm very thankful that on a Thursday, man, we're already in July. We are already in July. I remember like yesterday when we were in the new year, we were in Benin for the Voodoo Festival, which we're going back January 3rd through 12th. January 3rd through 12th, we are going back to Benin for the Voodoo Festival. Again, we are going back to Benin for the Voodoo Festival. If you'd like to join us in Benin Republic, please visit donfo.africa. Let me pull up the site real quick. Please visit donfo.africa. We will love to have you all. Again, please visit donfo.africa. And make sure you guys subscribe to the newsletter as well. When you guys subscribe to the newsletter, I'm going to personally call you. Okay, I'm not a bill collector. Because a lot of y'all start screening your calls. I'm like, hey, this is Dynast. You signed up for my newsletter. Then you guys play dumb. It's weird. Like you guys go to the site, you sign up for the newsletter. I reach out. Then you guys act like you don't remember signing up for a newsletter. So I will be contacting you, saying hello, saying thank you for joining our newsletter. Thank you for viewing our site. Thank you for considering us when it comes to traveling to Africa. So you're going to get a phone call from me when you put your phone number in. So don't act surprised, okay? My name is Dynast. There's a lot of people like, who are you? I'm Dynast. Dynast from where? Dynast from In Search of a Huru. Dynast from the website that you signed up to. Oh, I don't remember. Oh, goodness. So, guys, again, when you sign up for the newsletter, I'm going to call you. Hit the like button. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe. We are rolling to Nigeria August 4th through the 13th for the Osun Festival. Again, we are rolling to Nigeria August 4th through the 13th for the Osun Festival. If you are interested in joining us in Nigeria, please visit donfo.africa. Also, we are going to Benin Republic in January for the Voodoo Festival. Again, we're going to Benin Republic in January for the Voodoo Festival. It is donfo.africa. Donfo.africa. That's DANFO.africa. That is the site. Please go and visit the site. Go through it. Sign up for the newsletter. and we'll love to have you on one of our trips. Today's topic, and guys, at 6:30, Sleepy Joe is speaking at NATO, at a NATO conference. So we're going to tune in. PP Bop, you're right. You're right. But we're gonna tune in, switch gears a little bit at 6:30, which is in around 20 minutes. Is he speaking? Is he speaking already? Because I thought he wasn't gonna speak to 6:30. Or is he speaking now? Because I kind of do want to see Sleepy Joe speak. Then after he speaks, we could do a poll on if he's gonna drop out, because they're already saying behind the scenes. Yeah, British PM is speaking. Okay. Yeah, so at 6:30, he's supposed to speak. So at 6:30, we're gonna tune in. It's going to be interesting. You know, he might have a teleprompter, he might not, but it's going to be interesting. But let's jump into today's topic. Tonight's topic is Liberian refugees are being pushed out of Ghana. But here's the catch. And I always ask this question. I never get a straight answer. Would these Liberians, would they be suffering in this manner if there was no coup in 1980? Because people like to skip the coup in 1980. Oh. Get back focus, get back focus, get back focus. There we go. People like to skip the coup in 1980 and jump to the coup in, I think it was 1990 or 1989. Please forgive me. The coup in 1980, if you ask me, made a bigger impact in the direction that Liberia ended up going in than the coup of 1990. So the coup of 1980, as you know, Liberia was established primarily. You have Black Caribbeans as well. But I'll pull up the news clip here in a second, you guys. It was the foundation, the establishment of Liberia was that of freed slaves from here in America who decided to take their own destiny, to take the destiny in their own hands and go and build for self. In fact, y'all check out Kala's book. In fact, I'll get Kala's book here in a second. Let me get Kala's book here in a second. I got Kala's book. Again, freed slaves, African slaves, Black slaves, decided to take their destiny in their own hands and go back to Africa and go back home. These weren't colonizers, as some people like to say, who are anti-Congo people, anti-American Liberian. These were not colonizers. These were not settlers. These were Africans who were returning home, who were removed from Africa against their own free will. That's a fact. So you have the American Liberians, the Congo people, who, as people say, were in power for close over 180 years, 170 years. Doing my math right? Something like that. 160 years. So the argument is, that these Negroes, Boule Negroes, came, they enslaved the natives, but they didn't enslave the natives, because every time I ask, prove to me that the American Liberians, when they came, that they practiced the same form of chattel slavery that they were subjected to here in America. Nobody could do it. 163. Thank you, Colin. 163 years. Thank you, Colin. Not saying it was perfect, but the way the American Liberians were demonized, I'm like, if the American Liberians were that evil, were that bad, there's no proof of that. There's just no proof of it. If they were that bad, why weren't people leaving the country in mass in the same way that they were doing in after 1980 and especially 1990? And if you look at the country now, and if you look at we're going to look at this refugee crisis that, Liberian refugees left and went to Ghana. And if you see the way they were living in Ghana, the question becomes like, did you support the coup in 1980? So 1980, there's a coup. William Tolbert, president, gets assassinated along with his cabinet on the beach. It was absolutely disgusting. Samuel Doe takes over, an illiterate fool. And guess what he does? He gets power and he begins to, in fact, this is the question I have. Did the American Liberians oppress the indigenous people on the same level that Samuel Doe oppressed his own people? Because it's well documented. You had several massacres that were committed at the hands of Samuel Doe while he was in office against the Liberian people. Then you have the coup of 1990, and that's a wrap. I've been to Liberia. My father used to go to Liberia often. When the Americans were in power, in fact, more people will visit Liberia. Liberia was the landing spot. Liberians was the landing spot, was the place to go, even more than Ghana. Even more than Ghana. In fact, Ghanaians. So you have Sierra Leone, you have Fobe College, you have Liberia. I forgot the name of the university in Liberia. Like all of West Africa, they would go to Fobe College in Sierra Leone and Freetown, and they would go to Liberia to get educated, including Ghanaians, everybody. Well documented. Liberia had 2 beautiful 5-star hotels. I want to say the first 5-star hotel ever in at least West Africa. I'm not sure of all of Africa, but I know for sure West Africa, Hotel Africa and the Ducor, which I've been to both. It's all rubble now. It's all destroyed. It's destroyed, but I've been. So it's just simple. Would Liberia be better off now if there wasn't a coup in 1980? And the answer, if you ask me, is yes. No, Corey. So I'm for a balance of Africanity and modernism, if that makes sense. Modernity. There we go. Modernity and Africanity. Like I'm for. I think both can coexist. So indigenous Africanity, African culture, and what you call modern, but I like to call it African modern. It can all modernity. Yeah, y'all know what I mean. Stop it. Y'all know what I mean. I said it right. Modernity. Modern African. There we go. Call it a fusion. Like a fusion. It's important. You can't get rid of the culture. The indigenous culture, you can't get rid of it. There needs to be room for both. A fusion. There you go, Kala. Thank you. A fusion. I'm not really to Afrofuturism. Not necessarily. I think hold on. Let me. So, like the traditional indigenous art, mass sculptures mixed with modernity. If that makes sense, like this is timeless. All right, this is a midday mass, the Sobe mass. This is timeless. Like you don't get rid of this. You don't get rid of this. It's a fusion. They can coexist. They can coexist. Oh, let me show you what happened in Ghana. Hold on, give me a second. So because of the coup in 1990 and partly 1980, because it's all connected, hundreds of thousands of Liberians fled the country. Now, again, my question is, if the Americo-Liberians were in power, if they were so oppressive and just mean, why didn't hundreds of thousands of Liberians flee seek refugee status when they were in power, versus this period from 1980 through, we'll just say 1992-ish? Here we go.
Hey, real quick, how would you find the answer in all this data?
You get SASVIA.
SASVIA. Cool. Oh, here we go.
The quickest way from a billion points of data to a point of view. SASVIA.
Hundreds of Liberians in Ghana's capital Accra have been left homeless after their decades-old camp was abruptly demolished. It had been a home to those who fled Liberia's brutal civil war through the 1990s. Liberian camp chairman Dennis Guion said people were surprised because authorities hadn't even made an announcement.
So at the end of the day, we thought it was like joke, but they begin to demolish. People you see sitting here, they lost almost everything they had.
Over its 35-year lifespan, the Liberian camp had developed into a thriving community with its own markets, schools, and other services. On Monday, the refugees were sheltering in a school. In one classroom, Prince Kamara was trying to keep his studies going while others around him slept. But he said the demolition means he's not able to go to school.
Because all my stuff had been destroyed. My books, my uniform, every stuff had been destroyed. So due to that, I'm not going to school no more.
Guion, the camp chairman, says discussions between refugees and local authorities are ongoing, with appeals being made for government support and relocation. Many families have been queuing up to register for assistance at the Ghana Refugee Board. Some say they've been waiting for formal refugee status from the government since before the end of Liberia's civil war in 2003. Others have lived in Ghana their entire lives.
Okay. Link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, please call in and add to the conversation. Let's be respectful. I'm all about diversity in thought and viewpoints. You're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation. Again, link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, please click on the link and you are more than welcome. There we go. Go ahead. Our resident Igbo woman. Go ahead.
Dynast.
Yes. Yes.
I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, our resident Igbo.
I do. I appreciate that.
Yes. Go ahead.
Just going ahead and getting started before the NATO summit with Biden speaking regarding Liberia. Respectfully, Liberia is a sovereign nation. And since Kala has joined, I'm going to yield because I know he has quite a bit to say. I'm going to yield. Kala, give it away.
Go ahead, Kala. Meet yourself, Kala.
Yeah, my wife Isabella went to that refugee camp in 1996, and there's one guy, I forgot his name. He's a Liberian guy, business guy. He was in there at the same time, but he's in Liberia right now. He does a club promotion and stuff like that, tourism. I met him and stuff like that. I forgot his name, but he's all around. You see him on the internet a lot. Anyway, she was there in 1996 as a refugee. She, Congo people, American Liberian background, had their lives uprooted and whatnot by these idiots who destroyed their country, destroyed their way of life, took their land away, took everything, property, cars, everything they had, and they end up in a refuge. There was all types of people in Liberia from different backgrounds and everything, from people that was once affluent to the poorest people in that refugee camp. And Ghana sent a ship over to rescue them. And Isabella, at the age of 9 years old, I believe she was 8 or 9 years old, was on that boat, on that ship. And so the bottom line is, Liberia, out of all the countries in the world, had the least amount of immigration to the United States. They said calculated only 37 people ever immigrated from the United States, from Liberia to the United States, up until the 1980s. 37 people. Liberia is the only country when dealing with America that more people left America than actually left Liberia and came to America traditionally. That was under the so-called Congo people. So in other words, Liberia got thousands of people from America, and America during that time period didn't get almost nothing from them, except for a few people who returned, a few handful of people returned. But that's remarkable in history. People don't talk about that. What was it about this country that people saw such promise in throughout its history? So that's why I said, and also when you see people like Afrodamus gets on, talk about Samuel Doe is trying to liberate the people. Do you know Samuel Doe is the one that greenlighted Firestone to just start using slavery and oppressive taxes, labor practices to get more labor and abuse the people? The same situation right now is going on in Cape Mount. There was a riot. I don't know if you heard about this, Dinus. There was a riot a couple months ago in Cape Mount where the police opened fire on demonstrators, right? Because and then I asked a question, and this was happening while I was there. And I asked the question, well, how did that mining deal get started? It's because they said, well, we were promised roads, we were promised schools. Who promised you? The Turkish government, whatever like that. I said, well, who signed it? It was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf who signed it, right? And I know what happens, right? They get the chiefs and everybody, and they start singing, dancing. Let's have a ceremonial. Let's bless it and everything like that. You listen to illiterate chiefs and everything. Now you're stuck with a thing that basically your water's being poisoned. The schools and all this stuff that you thought was going to happen never get built and everything like that. But yet, when you talk to them deeply, they'll still blame the Congo people for everything. You know, that's the scapegoat in Liberia right now. How to solve this, I have no idea. Because every time they mess up, they steal money, they're incompetent, they mess up, they'll always go back to the founding of the country. This country was founded in 1847 by people who came from America to oppress us and whatnot. When they had the country for 44 years, you know, and they still can't get it together. And it's all basically, that's why they say, Colin, why are you acting so like you are right now? I'm like this. I believe in Pan-Africanism, but there's this ongoing thing, right, where I see Black America as being attacked. When people attack Liberian history, they're attacking Black America. And Black America is a vanguard of the Pan-African and Black liberation movement. You know, our ancestors did nothing wrong in Liberia.
Yeah, I think it's my opinion that, like, when you start talking about Black America or Liberian, like when you start talking like in terms of denominations, for lack of a better word, that just adds to, you're just adding a chip into the pool of division, in my opinion. You say you're a Pan-Africanist, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not a fool though. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm not a fool, because the bottom line is, Jay, I don't know how old you are, right? I've been at this a long time, right? And I realize now that most people in Africa don't give a damn about Pan-Africanism. Everybody's taking care of their own tribe.
Well, I don't think I think
all stuff like this.
I disagree.
So watch the Black America. Right now, we got so many people going to Africa getting robbed, even killed, and abused and cheated and scammed, everything like that. And most time we don't say nothing because we want to keep up this facade of Pan-Africanism.
Well, it's not a facade. It's a very
bottom line,
look. I mean, you can't build.
Then how many Black Americans own oil wells in Nigeria? How
many
consortiums are there? How many Pan-African consortiums are there on the continent? We're all basically got stakes.
I think that you need to be a little bit patient, because when you look
don't tell me to be patient, bro. I've been at this for decades, man, and I've seen. Let me just make the situation getting worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my contention is this, bro. Like, to have substantial change to like reverse the political map of the continent of Africa, from what it is right now to where, you know, we have a united, let's say, federation of African nations. Things like that take time. Hold on a second. Let me just get this in. Let me just get this in.
Let Jake go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so these things take time, bro. These are complicated issues. You know, you have countries as small as Uganda that have problems governing themselves because of issues of tribalism. People feel like Museveni only builds roads in Western Uganda where his tribe is from. So to unite an entire continent, you're talking about a tectonic, these are massive,
to be united.
Massive. It's not a facade. And also, you made a statement earlier that you were kind of disparaging the idea of Pan-Africanism, which is it's interesting, because you say you're a Pan-Africanist, but then you're disparaging the idea. I think that when you speak to the average African person on the street, even those that are not educated, that haven't gone through formal education, and you introduce them the idea of, hey, you know what? We're all Black. We're all one. These borders were drawn up by Europeans years ago. That's something that a lot of Black people could get or could not only latch onto, but it's also something that you're starting to hear echoed right now through the voices of the youth, because the youth have the loudest voice right now. You know, so you can't change, we all want. Most of us are in favor of Pan-Africanism, but that's something that's going to take time to change. And something that I've been, I'm going to just put this out there in the space. I don't know if y'all want to comment on it, but I've been thinking a lot about why sub-Saharan African countries are, I wouldn't use the word dysfunctional, but if you look at the infrastructure, like if you go to the northern African countries, Libya, Tunisia. I don't know. I've never been to Egypt. I've never been to those countries, but just from the outside looking in, when I look on YouTube, Morocco, right? Morocco. It seems as
really
though
nice.
that their infrastructure, they have things a bit more together than we do. And I'm just throwing this out there. You guys could rip it to shreds, but I have a feeling that when you look at the history of sub-Saharan Africa, most of our history, our system of governance has traditionally been decentralized, right? So you have local government having, people lived in villages, and they lived in within their clan, they lived within their tribe. And, we have a centralized system of government that has been, for lack of a better word, imposed on us. Guys, it's only been
that's
60.
not true. That's not true. Yoruba was a confederation of a centralized government of states. So was
where?
Igbo land. So was Hausa land.
Where?
Those centralized governments in Mali. You had Mali, the Mali
Okay, but
Empire.
hold on a second.
Those
But
are large states.
how large were they? I'm not.
Very large.
Look, I mean, but hold on a second.
They had a
Look,
tributary
you could
that covers
look.
smaller kingdoms in them. So that's not the answer.
We're okay. I'm not. You don't even know what I'm saying, dude.
Well, I
Look,
know what you said. You said they're too big and the centralized government doesn't work. No.
I'm not saying centralized government doesn't work.
What we call
a
republic.
I'm saying.
Let me ask you a question, because you understand we're talking about in the
Dude,
modern world we live in.
Just let me get a point.
Hey, Kyle, let him finish, Kyle.
Just let me get a point in, bro. Like it's a point I wanted to make. You know what I'm saying? So look, and again, you can rip it to shreds afterwards, right? So look, traditionally, our continent of sub-Saharan Africa, our brown brothers and sisters have lived under a very decentralized system of governance, where the local chief, it's the local clan's head that kind of runs the show, and we have a centralized system of government that has, the Europeans just got up and left in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And it takes time to put the pieces together. I'm not here waving the flag in support of all the ills that the governments of Africa have done. No, I'm the first one to criticize it. But I'm just trying to take an objective view that, yeah, these guys have been fucking up. These guys have been fucking up. They've been stealing money. There's been a lot of corruption, but just for an objective viewpoint, it takes time to get everything together. That's it, bro.
Well, you got the Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger look like they're doing pretty good, and then you got people that are opposed to them. You got people that are opposed to them. I think they're off to a good start. First of all, why is it that Africans are still honoring the borders created in 1884? Like they're too scared to redraw borders that were given to them. That's the first thing. Why? Because it's easier to take over something that was already handed to you instead of you crap. And one thing I do like about Liberia is the borders of Liberia and the government was crafted by Black people themselves. It wasn't handed to them. So they defined themselves. This is our sovereignty. This is our land.
There's complex political forces and infrastructure at work. You can't just redraw the borders overnight. And it wasn't the 1800s.
Actually, it was 1800s. Something, you people don't understand something. The Europeans didn't occupy Leopold, and all these people didn't occupy Africa to the 20th century. So this colonization in Africa is relatively a new thing. It wasn't until they got the
dude. What is it? Okay, let me ask you this, and I don't want to hijack the show. What is it that I said that you disagree with? I'm not sure anything I said is controversial.
Like when you came on and said about Pan-Africanism, I think that fairy tale Pan-Africanism is going to die. And I'm here to shred that universe down to its last molecule.
You're trying to build a pyramid. You're trying to build a pyramid in one day. Things take time. Things take time to implement.
I'm trying to secure Black people all over the world's place in the thing, because I don't believe in. Okay, let me give you, for example, I don't believe in democracy. I don't believe in democracy. I believe in the idea of a republic. With the idea that certain groups have permanent representation, regardless of their numbers or whatever like that. They have representation. I do not believe in mob rule. That's the problem in Africa too. All you have to do is breed out of a bunch of people. And
My bad. Let me pass the mic.
Me, I was next.
Yeah, go ahead, Chantel.
All right, greetings, Dianist and Panist and Chad. All right, so I think that what's going on with them is that it's the same thing going on in America, in different Asian countries, probably all over the rest of the world too. When you have a group of people that you invite so you can help if their lives are at threats, whether it be a war or something like that, you invite them to come and establish themselves and get themselves together. I don't think it's a permanent invitation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, I think they understand that this is a temporary thing. Come here, establish yourself, get yourself together to go back home one day. I think the people forget that they have to leave at some point eventually. Why? Because even though you might bring some good values to the country, like, diversity or whatever, but the citizens of that country is only right for them to be the country what they're producing is only right for their citizens to eat from that, because that's their citizens. They got to take care of their tribe first. Then we can help other people. It's the same thing going on with with African American and Africans. It's a whole lot of tribal stuff. It's not just African people. They over there in Japan kicking out the Chinese, and the Chinese kicking out the other kind of Asians. So it's happening all over the world. And respectfully, I think that you cannot go to a person's country and build yourself permanently in their country to send money back to your country. Eventually that has to halt. Like, we can help you for a time, then you have to go ahead and leave, because our people, this is for our people. We're producing this for our people. Mute.
Yeah, you're right.
I just hate the fact that we're even thinking in terms of countries as opposed to our African brothers
reality,
and sisters.
bro.
But I respect it. I respect it.
All right, let me pass it to Al. Go ahead, Al. Al, unmute yourself. All right. Go ahead, Jagoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nice and early. I greet everybody on the panel. I just want to say one small thing at this point. There was never a Yoruba empire. Never. There was something called the Oyo Empire, which was not Yoruba, as in terms of, yes, they were Yoruba.
Well, we call it Yoruba.
Can I finish? Can you just shut up, you fuckface?
Man, yo, don't go off like that. Stop.
Well, I have to. You do this every time. I say two words, and you tell me your fuck shit. Shut up.
Jagoon, go ahead. I muted Kala.
Right, you gotta, man. You gotta stop. I've been quiet.
Jagoon, move on. I know Oyo. I know the Oyo.
Bro, the only thing is, this kind of repetition is not nice.
Well,
I don't like it.
I know it's Oyo.
Fuck him off, me. You should just fuck him off. He's a cunt.
Okay, go ahead, Jagoon. It's okay.
Yeah, you're a gentleman.
Yeah, what do I need to be a gentleman for? I'm an African. I'm not a gentleman. A gentleman is a white man's word. You can fuck off with that shit. Cunt.
Dude, why are you yelling? You're new to the.
I'm yelling because I'm upset. I'm yelling.
You're new to this chat. You stop.
I don't care about that. Who am fucking you? I'm me. I'm new to this chat. This is the way I be.
Jagoon, go. Kofi, guys.
Why is anyone talking to me?
Just ignore them. Go.
How do you do that? I don't know how to ignore fucking idiots. Anyway, let me continue. All I was trying to say, I was going to say something small. The Oyo Empire did not encompass the entire Yoruba peoples. The Oyo Empire came from the Eyo, which is what they will actually, I don't know if you will appreciate this, Dinus, because I know your take on Hebrew Israelite, but the Oyo Empire was very much to do with the Evio. Evio, and we pronounce it Oyo. The Ewe pronounce it Evio. You understand? Now, Ondo State, where I am from in Nigeria, they were not part of the Oyo Empire. In fact, Ondo State was the bridge between the Oyo Empire and the Benin Empire. It's all I wanted to say. I didn't really want to be controversial at all. It's just that when we speak, we have to try to aim for some level of accuracy. Otherwise, we're just spitting shit. And he's always ready to interrupt someone and spit shit. I don't know why you even allow it. That's all I want to
a question. You said Ewe or Efe is there's a tribe in Ghana called Ewe. Are they the same people in Nigeria too?
The Ewe, before the Ewe and the Ga are cousins, if you like, relations of the Yoruba people. They were in the Oyo Empire for 300 years before moving on. You understand? They were with us and they traveled with us. And I won't say here because it's going to be too controversial for a platform where people don't really read.
Right. Well, yeah, because Togo was part of the Oyo Empire in Ewe.
There you go. The whole thing, the Oyo Empire was massive. And all I'm saying to you is that Ondo State, where I'm from, if you understand the geography, that state in itself, that is where the word Jagun comes from. It means warrior. And we as a people were the establishment between the Benin and the Oyo. But we are Yoruba. The people of Igala, which is Yoruboid speaking, they were not part of the Oyo Empire. It's
Jagu, I don't even think Oshun was part of your Oyo Empire, was it? Like, was
well,
Ife, I don't think Ife was a part of Oyo Empire, was it?
No, Ife is definitely is the beginning. In terms of what they put out, you know, right. What Ife was the spur, but the Oyo Empire was a how can I put it? It was another, if you like, warrior group where they established their boundaries. But within their warriorship, what they really did was influence. They influenced modern war. The wars that they entered into with other groups were largely with the Fulani. When the Oyo Empire broke down, there was 100 years war amongst the Yoruba people. By the end of that war, that's when the Europeans came. So we had an army bigger than the Europeans would not have been able to enter Yoruba land if these people didn't butcher themselves for 100 years. By the time the English people came, they were tired. They were mashed up tired. They were sold, even though they still had their culture. I don't like people pronouncing things like they know. You don't know. You have no idea.
That's what I was saying.
Bro, why are you interrupting me?
Because you keep putting words in my mouth and you're disparaging.
Who is speaking? Sorry. Who is speaking?
This is Carl Jensen. You're being condescending right now.
I will be condescending, or when you interrupt me like bullshit.
No, when you're being condescending and disrespectful,
I'm extremely disrespectful where you're concerned, because you are extremely disrespectful as a person.
Yoruba, to us, right?
You see what you said there? You said to us, which means that you are the one who is identifying what it is.
In layman's term, we generally we understand, like my brother Mufasa spent time here. He said there really is no freaking one group of people called Yoruba. We understand there was the Oyo Kingdom, the Benin Kingdom, and all these other.
Well, why didn't you say that, bruv? For somebody like you, can I say this to you, Carla? Carla, I know you like to push your talk, but can I just say this to you? You see, you are somebody with a wealth of information, and somebody with your depth of information. You're probably my age, or maybe you're older. I don't know, but I can hear from you. You have a depth of knowledge, but you're not teaching, bruv. You're using it with a broad bench almost to beat people.
We're just hold on. We're on a.
I just want to land. I just want to land in two words.
I just made a generalization. Now,
yes, fair enough. Fair enough.
If you want to correct me, that's fine, but don't do it.
Well, you didn't allow me to correct you, bruv.
Condescending me,
my brother. You did not allow me to correct you.
No,
I said about 4 words. I said about 4 words, and you were there. It's not nice.
Look, I understand there was an Oyo Kingdom, but we all, in our term in America, we call them all the Yoruba.
Yes, but my brother, all I'm asking you to do.
Got the Igbo, the Ijaw, the Biafra, They got also
Bruh,
that
all
race
I'm
and
asking,
ego.
if you know, as you're saying that you know, then that's
But
what you
it's
should
not
put
our
out there.
job to educate the world on Nigeria.
No, it's not
That's
about
your
your
job.
job. It's not about your job. It's about your efficacy in accuracy. If you don't have it,
I don't have
fuck
to be
off.
accurate. I don't have to be
You
accurate
have to be
for every
accurate,
little
bro.
thing.
No,
Oh, no,
sir. You guys,
guys, let me
You
pass.
silly cunt.
yes, sir. You guys talk about Black American people every single day.
Oh,
and
stop, stop. We're
Generalizations
not,
and
we're not
everything.
doing that
I'm
today.
not doing
They
that.
already
That's
they're
not what I
already
did.
for them to talk about us
One mic.
Controversy, unnecessary controversy.
Political calculus. You want to add to this?
I sure do. Right on
Go ahead.
time, Dynast. He's about to go live right now. Did you hear me? He's going
Yeah,
live.
I'm sorry. When he goes live, I'll put him on.
Yeah, he is going live.
Want me to be polite when someone's being rude?
He's not live
Absolutely,
yet.
I have this panic.
He's
No,
not live.
he's holding the news conference right now.
But he's not on yet. I'm watching right now. He's not on yet.
Okay, no, I'll go ahead. I'll yield.
No, go ahead. Go
okay,
ahead.
can I say something?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm being polite with this, but you guys do come up and give all of y'all around the world, y'all come up and give y'all opinions about Black America. So when Black Americans come in and they give their opinions about what's going on in Africa currently and all of that, may not even know what they're talking about. Just like you guys don't be knowing what you're talking about, you gotta bear to what we say. You have to allow us
I don't know. Is that directed at me? Chantel, is that directed at me? Because I didn't say one word about African American.
You don't know what you're talking about. No, you.
Okay, but you know, all I'm saying, or I'm asking you, Chantel.
All the other times talking about Black America too.
When did I do this?
Oh, I think I was on the panel with you about a day or so ago. You was up.
So why can't we speak about what just happened? Why are you bringing 2-day history?
No, all I'm saying is
are you so pained? Are you so pained?
Is that if you can speak on Black America, we can speak on your
Do you know
history.
Black America is on TV every day all over the world? You know that it's on TV.
And what does that mean, sir?
What it means is that
you're right. Chantel. Okay, Chantel, we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Kofi. Unmute yourself, Kofi. Go ahead.
Chantel, you're a baby, me. You're acting like a child.
Stop it. Go ahead, Kofi.
Yeah, cheers to everyone on the chat right now.
Hello, sir.
My experience with Liberians in Ghana, you know, I met some Liberians who lived in America for a long time. I met some Liberians who are, you know, hustling. They're like in the street, you know. But we all, when I meet a Liberian in Ghana, I'm happy. I'm glad to talk to them. I'm glad to talk to them about the history and everything, and why. Like, I'm really on the continent. I'm a huge fan of Nigeria. I'm a huge fan of Liberia. Ghana is very similar to Liberia. I feel like Ghana is the modern version of Liberia. Ghana is very close to the United States when it comes to the Ghanaians coming back from the United States and, you know, bringing globalization here. And this place is strictly about money. Now, you could represent an ethnic group. You could represent a religion. You better have money, because if you don't, no one really cares about you. But as long as you could purchase things, you fit in.
Well, please.
This is the culture today. I was surprised to live in Africa and realize that people are living solely on money. And that's where my ignorance was at, because I didn't realize that we weren't the only ones, especially on the African continent. Ghana is the United States without a social plan. And the Liberians that are able to stay here in Ghana, they're coming in with that Western. They're coming in with that Western money. They're coming from either the UK. Most of all, they're coming from the United States, and they're able to stay, but they're a minority. Now, the ones that went back, you know, they were kind of seen as the people that are outside the culture. They don't speak the language. You know, they speak some pidgin or on their version of English, but they're looked at as a class that's on the bottom. So when they're expanding that roadway before Tasua and where their camp was at, that was a way to get them out of there. And you know, this seemed to have happened like every 3 years where they send Liberians home. Now I haven't looked on the internet and seen any like Liberians talking about they're glad to be home. I think I almost saw one video about that. But Africa is a capitalist country, and when it in the culture, damn near is money. It's strictly money. If you don't have money, then you're a person that needs money, and I feel like this is the worst place to need money, and you pretty much already have to have.
I might push back on that just a little bit. I think largely your point's well taken.
I'm gonna pass the mic first.
My bad, bro.
Kofi,
My bad.
Are you done, Kofi?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, go ahead, roll Mitch.
In Ghana, I don't really see, like, when I see people over there, everybody just about their business. So when I'm there, I can't really tell who is who, maybe because I've been outside for so long. So everybody's just about their business. I'm not really able to tell this person is from here and there, and this person is below this person, whatever. So it's either you're rich, you have a little bit of money, or you're really poor. That's all you see. Until you get to know the person, that's when you know they got money or they don't have money. Some people you can just tell from afar because of what they have on, what they're driving, and where they live, and so on. So, like, you can't really tell what somebody is just by looking at them. Well, I can't. So but it doesn't matter where I go, I just go about my business and do whatever I have to do. If I can work with the person, I work with the person. If not, I just go about my business. So Liberians or anybody, there's people that you can tell where they're from because of their attire and how they dress, with their religion too. But aside from that, you can't really tell. I can't tell. So again, I'm not there trying to pick who is who and all of that stuff. There's people that live there, they can tell. As soon as I land, they know you just came, you don't live there, you're foreign, and so on. Because they live there, they're able to tell each other apart because they know who's around, who's not, who's coming, who's going. But when we outside, when we go, we're not able to tell unless you're there with that mindset that you're looking for those things to point out, to say, okay, this person is from here and this person is from there. So unless you're there every day looking at who's coming, who's going, you can't really tell all of that. So this whole tribalism thing, again, how I define the tribes carries the language, culture, traditions, customs, and rituals. You take that away, you lose your identity. So everybody's trying to protect who they are and what they are. For example, the Black American is trying to protect what they are. So in a sense, that's their tribe. What they have become, what you guys are, is what you are. That's what you're protecting. It's the same thing when the Europeans are saying, we need to get rid of the African mentality. We need to get rid of, lack of a better word, their tribes, which is the customs, culture, traditions, and all of those things. Once you remove that, then you can program them the way you want. It's the same thing when they set up the schools. They took the little children. They didn't educate the old people. You know, they're saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. They took the children and indoctrinated the children. So when your child comes home, that child has a different mentality than you are, right? I forgot who said that it's a disservice for your enemy to educate your children. But we didn't see them, even now we still don't see them as enemies, and we allow them to still teach us and educate and give us information. So again, it's the education that makes us the way we are. Like trying to tell people that our leaders, they look like us, but their mindset, their brain, their education is European. So they do to us what the European will do to us. And we still are not able to understand that. All these people that were saying, oh, they're corrupt, they're this, If we can strip their skin away, that's it. European, that's a white person that we are dealing with. Those sellouts, those people that those are not like us. They're not us.
All right,
Those are European. Everything about them.
Okay, let me pass it to Zongo. Go ahead, Zongo Native.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, actually, I didn't listen to the introduction of this discussion, but it is the topic that really propelled me to join. First of all, like Dinus, why are you getting this information from like the refugees who are being forced to leave Ghana?
I just showed the video.
Yeah, because like the report that I'm seeing from the Ministry of Information, the Foreign Ministry of the Liberian government says the otherwise. Actually, in fact, they were urging all Liberians from the Bujumbura camp to return back home, and a village has been built to them in the Bong County, and they were saying he was saying that they can't stay there for long because the main purpose of the camp was an intervention of what happened in the country at that time, but now the country is experiencing peace, and he urges all of them to come back home. And bosses in large numbers, bosses were sending numbers to help in repatriating them back to Liberia. So I'm guessing some of them chose not wanting to come back home because he did thank the government of Ghana and the
But
people and even
Zongo,
the
let me
chief.
ask you a question. At the same time, right? Isn't that kind of like pushy when you start destroying their homes and destroying their businesses on the way out? Why does Ghanaians got to do that?
No, I don't think the way they're destroying. I think is the camp,
I
right? I
saw them
think
on eyes. Bulldozers are already out there raising houses and everything, leaving people homeless. Come on. Yeah, we want them to go back to Liberia, but damn, man, come on.
I mean that's not what
Where's the
I'm
peace
seeing. Or
and
the
Pan-Africanism and love in that?
I mean anyway. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm getting. You guys are getting the information,
It's
but
right there in black
what
and
I
white.
saw.
Hold on. Come on, man. It's right here.
Can you show me the video actually? Let me
Well,
see.
Zongo, man, you always have amnesia or something.
No, wait, because I'm reading something different from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of
Man, you gotta
Liberia.
stop reading Boo Boo the Fool's
Yeah,
editorial.
but both of those things could be true. Both of those things could be true. The Liberian government could be calling them back, and the Ghanaian people can be pushing them out.
Let me play this video. Hold on. Let me play this video for Zongo. Hold on.
Hundreds of Liberians in Ghana's capital Accra have been left homeless after their decades-old camp was abruptly demolished. It had been a home to those who fled Liberia's brutal civil war through the 1990s. Liberian camp chairman Dennis Grion said people were surprised because authorities hadn't even made an announcement.
So at the end of the day, we thought it was like joke, but they begin to demolish. People you see sitting here, they lost almost everything they had.
Over its 35-year lifespan, the Liberian camp had developed into a thriving community with its own markets, schools, and other services. On Monday, the refugees were sheltering in a school. In one classroom, Prince Kamara was trying to keep his studies going while others around him slept. But he said the demolition means he's not able to go to school.
Because all my stuff had been destroyed. My books, my uniform, every stuff had been destroyed. So due to that, I'm not going to school no more.
Grion, the camp chairman, says discussions between refugees and local authorities are ongoing, with appeals being made for government support and relocation. Many families have been queuing up to register for assistance at the Ghana Refugee Board. Some say they've been waiting for formal refugee status from the government since before the end of Liberia's civil war in 2003. Others have lived in Ghana their entire lives.
Oh, so that's understandable.
Finding
So
an affordable place to live is really hard.
that means they don't want to go back home, pretty much, right? They don't want to go back to the.
No, they just want to live.
I mean,
They
like
should
what
have
I'm
been
saying, like
given citizenship.
what I'm saying, like they don't want to go back home because what I'm reading from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from Liberia is that they build like villages for the 4,000 and something Liberians for them to
Yeah, I was in
stay
Bong.
over
I didn't
there.
see no building like that going on. There's some
Man,
development,
that's
but
what
that's
the
going to take
ministries.
time.
That's what the ministry of. I can even share the link to you from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from
Yeah, but that's
Liberia.
going to take millions of dollars, and the
No,
logistics on that's going to take years to
according
do.
to what is being said, it has been built for them in the Bongo County. I mean, you've been
Nah,
to Liberia.
it's not.
You've
It's
been.
not. We would know about it.
Oh, so is the
It's
Liberian
not
government
everything you
lying?
know, It's not everything you're going to find out. It's not everything you're going to
That's
know.
what the Ministry of Liberia is saying. Let me share the link to the back chat so that you can see.
All right, guys, let me pass the Ahmed. Go ahead, Ahmed. Unmute yourself, Ahmed. Ahmed, unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead, Elvis. Unmute yourself, Elvis. Elvis.
Pass the mic, guys. I'll come on in a second. I gotta get myself situated.
Can I say
I
something
think
about
that place
Ghana?
there's a
So let
development
me
going on in that place.
finalize what I was saying. So I think my understanding is, when they kind of like call them, they were expecting them for them to go back home, because generally, if you don't if you don't like kind of compel people, they are not going to leave actually. So that's my understanding, that the bosses were brought in numbers for them to go back home, but I think the ones that chose not to leave are the ones that experience some kind of like demolishment in their household, but the intention is to
Yeah,
ensure
but
that they
did
can
you hear what
survive.
he said? They have a
Yeah,
thriving community there.
no, it's a camp actually, because I mean
Yeah, I
I
know, but
think
they built it into a thriving, self-sufficient community.
yeah,
You know.
but wait, but this is information coming from the Liberian government. So my understanding, if they brought bosses, it means they actually really wanted them to go back. It's something that was held between the government of Liberia and the government of Ghana, and this is what
I
this
think
report
the
actually
people
came
there,
from. The
the
leak,
people are
someone
living
from the
in
league.
Liberia, and they're not participating in the Ghanaian culture or Ghanaian education. They're doing their own thing. So
Does anyone know how many people we're talking about? Like how many people?
camp. It's a
I mean,
camp.
the
It's where
people
they
in that
put.
camp were about like 4,200 and something, according to the data from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from Liberia. I mean, I just shared the link. So I think it's something between government, but in order to make sure people actually go back home, you have
You don't
to,
want to go back.
you have you have to force them to kind of go back home. So you have to kind of like do some kind of enforcement activity to ensure people
To
actually
stay here
to
and
repatriate back.
become a citizen, you have to pay, and you have to know people. And once you get to know people in the government, you have to pay them. Now, if these refugees really wanted to stay instead of hiding out and just living life, they would use their monies to pay for their citizenships. But a lot of people are just not in that position, especially when your status is as a refugee. The first thing gonna ask you, well, can you give us something? Can we chop something? If they can't chop anything, it's worthless. You might as well leave that camp, go to another region in Ghana, and hide out
And what
and
about
make
the
your
ones
money
that
off
were
books.
born in Ghana?
Checking for identity and all that. Nobody checks identity. These people can live and do and move about.
I
Anyway,
think because this
here
land was
it seems
given.
like they can't move and nobody's out to get.
So we have to
They just
understand the land.
Can I come in now, Darnus?
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, others.
All right, thank you. I mean, Darnus, you always put these kind of topics to kind of poke, but when you talk about tribalism, it's always been there. And for some people who understand the tribal history in Liberia, I myself being a Liberian, and of course, Darnus knows this, and maybe a lot of people on the platform know this. I'm from the same ethnic group as Samuel Doe. And after the coup and the subsequent war, my ethnic group was demonized massively. And, it seems to be, the blame was.
I wonder why, Elvis. I wonder why.
Hold on,
Tell the truth why they were villainized. Tell the truth.
Yeah, so hold on now. So just to give you a caveat, I always say this. Samuel Doe is from a small but very powerful tribe when it comes to fighting. We're warriors.
Yeah, but
And
they got their butts kicked by the frontier force.
Hold
with
on, hold
ease.
on, hold on, Carla, please. You know, I didn't want to come in.
Why?
Today.
How is it the people be such good fighters?
Well, Kyle, let him go. Let him go. Go ahead, Elvis. Go ahead.
So when the coup happened in the 1980s, in 1980, it was accelerated because there were a group of guys who were known as the Progressive, who was agitating for.
Hey, Elvis, are you on speakerphone or are you talking? Are you on your Obama phone? Like you just
I think I have to disconnect my headphone. Maybe it was.
There you go. You're good. Go ahead. That's perfect.
Yeah. So when the coup happened, it was people who was agitating for multi-party democracy, and there was a big riot that happened, and a lot of people got killed. And the guys who was agitating for this was put in jail, the likes of Barkus Matthews and others. And there was rumors that they were going to be killed after President Torber left and went to an OAU meeting at the time. So that coup was accelerated because of the fear of these so-called heroes being killed. But Doe, who is from the Kran ethnic group, was not the brightest of the bunch. He was quite uneducated, but he was the highest ranking military officer
No,
in
he
the
was a
group of.
non-commissioned officer. What are you talking about?
Say that again?
Staff sergeant, non-commissioned officer. He wasn't even an officer in the military. What are you talking about?
I said amongst the group, Carla, listen, amongst the group who was plotting the coup, he was the highest ranking person in that group. So hold on. Look, Donis, you got to protect me for a second. I'm only going to make this statement and be off. So he got catapulted into a group, into leadership. And you had a guy from the Gil ethnic group, which if anybody knows the history of Liberia, the tribal history, these two groups are actually related. We intermarry, we are neighbors, but these are two powerful tribal groups who have fought, historical wars with each other. And none of our issues has been dormant for many years. And Doe and another guy from the Gil tribe called Konyapa were best friends. Yeah, they were best friends, and they were from that two rival ethnic groups. So where tribalism came into place was Konyapa was kind of engaging with the socialists, the Marxists, and he wanted to, many people was telling him he's more powerful. There are a lot of people that respect his leadership, and just that same tribal, rivalry came into play that he's the strong man. He should overthrow Doe. So there was a vice head of state called Thomas Wesson, which is Doe's ethnic man also, because he was the second highest ranking officer or member of the military amongst them. And there was another young guy called Nelson Toll, which is also from Doe ethnic group. When this quote unquote coup plot came to place, Doe arrested those three guys, Wesson, Nelson Toll, and Thomas Konyapa. And he executed two of them, which is from his own ethnic group. And he spared Thomas Konyapa, which is from the Gil ethnic group, because they were best friends, and he didn't want him to get killed. And what he did was to demote him from the military ranks and make him a civilian. But Konyapa retreated to his home county of Nimba, and Doe called for his arrest because he was being insubordinate. And the people there said they're not going to turn him over. That's where this whole tribalism come into play. But the two ethnic groups have had long tribal history. Myself, my wife is half Gil. We love to marry each other. We're neighbors, but there's always been this long, history of rivalry between these two ethnic groups. So when you bring in tribalism, Doe himself was best friend with Konyapa from that group. And the reality is, it only came into play when there was a quote unquote power struggle. That's when the ethnic divide comes into play. But with the issue with the refugees, I think it's an embarrassment to the Liberian government. They have neglected our people for many years, and they've kind of, embarrassed us as a nation, because these people, some of them don't want to come home. Remember, our war is not like a regular war where there's fighting and you just run away and you go to a neighboring country. There was atrocity that happened to many of these people. They saw their family being killed. Some of them, their entire families and villages were wiped off. Most of them don't want to come back because the memories are so horrible. But one bright spot from that refugee camp, many people who like football, like Alfonso Davis, who is a football player, was born in that camp. Now he's a global football superstar. So a lot of people were born and grew up their entire life in that camp. Most of them don't even have memories of Liberia. Say that again. Yeah, he plays for Bayern. So they don't even have memories of the country. So for them to come back, it's like, one, they're ripping the bandage of the wounds that they suffer. Two, they know that Liberia is hard. Some of them are from quote unquote rival ethnic groups. They're going to come back and maybe people will target them. There are a lot of fears. So them coming back into Liberia, there's no economic prospect for them. First of all, because Ghana is more economically viable for most people because the economy is a lot better than ours. So a lot of them prefer to stay in Ghana. But Ghana, I would say I'm torn. You know my opinions on Ghana, but I'm torn because they've helped those people for many years. They can't be there in perpetuity, of course not. But at the same time, Liberia also did a lot of good for Ghanaians. They integrated into our societies. They were professors. They were even serving our government. We brought them into our country before the war, and they have good positions in Liberia. But now it seems like they're not really reciprocating. But then again, you can't say that because they've helped for over 30 years. So it's time for them to come back home. I think our government have to put some social programs into place to help them. If not, that would be a dereliction of their duty as a responsible government. But overall, I don't feel bad for the refugees because I think it's our country's fault that they're still in that squalor position, and we haven't put anything together to help them. Instead, we're stealing the ministers and government officials are stealing the country as well through corruption and whatnot.
And
So
Elvis,
that would be my take. I just want to say my piece in this, and then I will pass the mic.
let me add this because I'm from Ghana. I just wanted to add. I
Where's
mean,
the camp located?
Say that again. Where do I come from?
No, I just wanted to add to
camp located. The camp. Where is it located?
It was in the Bujumbura camp. It was, a makeshift camp from like some tribal land or something that was given to
It's
them.
right outside of Accra. I
Yeah,
believe.
50
It's
kilometers
outside of Accra.
right outside of Accra. I
Like
mean,
an hour away.
I grew up in Ghana with a lot of Liberians. I mean, especially like in some like the pioneer rappers in Ghana, like Scientific. He's a Liberian. Even currently, there's a Liberian in Ghana. His name is Jay Zeno. He had a popular hit music actually, and he actually blew up from Ghana actually. So they are actually thriving Liberians within Ghana that a lot of people are really unaware of. Actually, and most of them do not reside within the camp. Yeah, most of them they are really successful. And I grew up with knowing a couple of few Liberians that are actually living very well in Ghana as well. So you shouldn't look at it that way.
And with this tribalism, I just wanted to put something out. In Kumasi, all the tribes in Ghana, you can find all of them have a place where they live in Kumasi. Also, you have Igbo settlement also in Ghana. The Hausa is also there. They were brought from the British to fight Asante. So they are when we talk about tribes and tribalism, all that, the Asante Empire has put everybody together. That was one of its aim all the time. So right now, you go to Ghana, you can find every tribe in Kumasi right now.
And not necessarily so. Actually, I mean, I'm a product of that because my a section of my people came from other region of Africa. If you go to the Zongo communities within Ghana, over like I'll argue over 80% of them come from a tribal ethnic group that do not originate from Ghana. And every city, every region in Ghana has a Zongo community, and this is predominantly.
Yeah, but guys, again, are we talking? I mean, somebody threw out the number 4,000 people because I asked earlier how many refugees are we talking about?
Than that.
I
mean, that's
40,
what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said.
Okay, so 4,000. So I looked up the population of Ghana, in a country of 33 million people. To me, 4,000 people, even if they are in an encampment for a number of years, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, I mean, I understand you can't, have people not paying taxes and just living off the land for free. But I would probably guess, I don't know the politics of Ghana, but probably a lot of people in Ghana are not paying taxes.
This is not
living off the land. So it's like, what strain on the society of Ghana were they putting? Were they a nuisance?
I think this is not an order. It's not an order from the government of Ghana. I think from the tribal, the traditional chief of that area.
So you think it was a tribal thing that we want these outsiders out?
No.
I think it's from the traditional chief. I don't know like the circumstances surrounding that demolishment. Actually,
I think it's development going on.
Yeah, it's easily development. That's why. Let me pass it to Bang. Go ahead, Bang. Bang, unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is my first time calling. I missed the intro of the show, so I'm not sure the exact topic because
Well, I mean,
I'm
the
thinking it's more
topic
about
is
Ghana.
the topic is the title of the show.
Okay. I mean, the thing is this with some of these African countries, right? They got, they got to understand, like, you got to work with your brothers and sisters. No matter what, if they come from another country and then they suffering and stuff like that, there's a way we should work with each other, at least help each other out, because we can't develop to a way that other nation is going to respect us if we don't develop with each other. Especially in my personal opinion, you got to work with your neighbors. Because we all come from the same suffering, even though other countries might be slightly better and everything, but overall we are suffering, the same way from the IMF, the World Bank and everything. Because when you technically look at it, we don't really own nothing. We just own the land. That's about it. But like what's come from that, we don't own it. Like produce jobs and everything or make things. Because at the end of the day, my belief, a country that owns the resource and make things is the ones in power. Not the ones like, you look at like a perfect example, like the British Empire. Most of the companies that create jobs in the British that makes a lot of money are like American companies. British don't have like these top elite companies no more. So at the end of the day, British is just an old empire that's been down for years now because they don't put nothing. They don't own a legit company, America or like
America
China
still gives
or
money.
France.
You know that. That's grandpa and that's grandma. America gives them money. Canada gives them money. Australia gives them money. The Caribbean islands give them money. Africans still give them money. They haven't lost that much power.
Yeah, and guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Development, that's a woefully inadequate reason to kick out 4,000 people in a country of 33 million. There's many other countries where you have
happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, okay, and that's fair. That's fair. That's fine. And it's natural.
I'm not saying it's right, but it happens all the time. Here in America, they tear down the projects, kick people out.
Yeah, like in DC,
luxury
they be doing
condos.
it for like years.
Yeah. Well,
DC, they be doing it for years.
I will give a success story. Sorry to bring up Kenya again, but Kenya has a lot of Somalians, Ethiopians, Eritreans that are not from that country that come there. And they integrate. Actually, they are kind of separate. There's a lot of certain specific neighborhoods where you go and it's just Somali and it's just Ethiopian, but they're able to coexist. I think one of the beauties of sub-Saharan Africa that I think is beautiful is that we have such a proliferation of we have hundreds and maybe thousands of tribes and languages in close proximity to each other that were able to coexist for thousands of years.
Hello?
And, man has been searching for, the proper system of government. Maybe the Africans were onto something if they were able to coexist despite their differences. All these different tribes, all these different languages able to coexist to this day.
I mean, with the governing system, right?
What you saying is true.
So actually, I just read an article, which is, according to reports, is like there are 42,000 Liberians living in Ghana, but from the in Ghana, but in the camp it's about like 4,000 people. In fact, I think the United Nations deemed Liberia as safe to go back since 2006, and there was a conversation held between both government for them to help in repatriating those people back to your homeland. Because I'm thinking the traditional chief actually gave them the land in hopes that once their country is safe, they could go back and give the land back to him. I think the primary reason why they went further to demolish the camp was to ensure development coming to the region. So that's what I think. I think there were effort made for several decades to ensure they go back, but a lot of them actually do not heed to that. If you want a free land, you can.
When they came in, they haven't really established themselves. All the other refugees.
No. They have actually, because it's the data says 42,000, but the camp specifically It's
No, I'm
about
saying
4,200.
established when I mean development. Like the other refugees that came in, you can
Mhm.
see them
Let,
only.
let me pass it to political calculus. Political calculus. They
They
haven't,
haven't really
your
built anything.
boy political calculus. Your boy Biden. He's late. He's supposed to speak at 6:30. It's almost 7:30. What do you think is going on? Political calculus.
Dinez,
What?
our president is waking up from his nap.
Okay.
Like he needs to get that crust out of his eyes. And we had, if I may, Corinne Jean-Pierre, who is Haitian, may this young lady be given grace because they are putting all of their stress on this woman. All of their stress. She is going through quite a bit during those press conferences. So if everyone may give a moment of silence to the great agility of KJP. But Dinah, to answer your question, she's waking him up. She has to wake him up. You know, Jill Biden can't do it. And Hunter Biden, well, he needs to clean up after himself. And stop
I
leaving.
think Biden should just quit and give it to Kamala Harris and have Kamala Harris debate Trump and try to go out with a bang.
Well, that's what they're working on right
with
now.
With all the caping that we all do for women, might as well do this.
That's what they're working on right now. Whoever spoke, they've already done polling to see how she fares. And they're stating that Kamala would fare better than Biden. Because
that's not going to happen, though.
That's what they're saying in their polling. But this, of course, Diana,
she'll do worse than Hillary Clinton. But go ahead, go political calculus. Go ahead.
But remember, Dinah, one of the reasons why they need Kamala, and I mentioned this to you the other day, is that they need to think down ballot. And the understanding is that, and we did discuss this, you know, the Black baby boomers, the Black American baby boomers are the bedrock of the Democrat Party. And they like her for very obvious reasons. She's an AKA, amongst other things. I mean, she has the appropriate look. She does. Let's be very honest here.
She put a lot of us in jail. That's cool.
She did. And on a very random note, but to many people, it is important. She did red carpet with Montel Williams in the 90s. And she was dressed for the honeycomb. So she fits in. And of course, her relationship with Willie Brown. She's worked her way up, and there's a very good chance they're going to use her for the ticket because keep in mind, Dynast, all the money they have raised, Biden Harris would then just go straight to her. If you bring in somebody else new, where are they going to get all this capital from? They would have to raise money. Furthermore, she's been tested. She's gone through the executive, so she has some battle scars. She has stripes. So there's the understanding in that regard. And also the most important is that their understanding is that, because they best believe the executive is a wash. Trump more than likely is going to win. However, you can't have Trump come in with a mandate with both houses. Because if they keep Biden on the ticket, imagine Dynast, Congress with the Republican supermajority, 2/3, then they can push anything by without cloture. Political science majors, you know what I'm talking about, cloture. You won't even need it. He has supermajority, 2/3. On top of the fact SCOTUS is 6-3. So they're trying to halt. And that's why the money people are coming in. George Clooney, Stephen King, Rob Reiner. Dynast, Rob Reiner, did you read what he put out on Twitter?
And George Clooney,
And he used the F word, Rob Reiner. Oh my goodness. You know, Rob Reiner from the movie The American President, which I loved as a kid, and also the movie, the TV show, The West Wing. So you're having these types of people who are the money people who want Biden gone. So that's what's going on right now. They are looking to push Kamala because they can. Dynast, we spoke about it yesterday. New York is battleground, and he's now Biden is up by 7 in New York. And also, they're still stating, Dynast, that Georgia is battleground, but you are right.
It's no way. No
period.
Way.
You are right, Dynast, on period. It is not. It is red. And a lot of that has to go to Kemp. So this is where we are, right? This is where we are. It's Michigan, Wisconsin, which they cannot lose. And if you look at Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, 3 states, battleground, very, very large Black population, very large Black population. And they just can't lose these states. So they're pushing Kamala out, hoping that, If you have the governors like Whitmer and Kamala on the ticket, well, not necessarily both of them on the ticket, but Whitmer, the governor, who's Democrat, and Kamala as the candidate or the nominee, that may help bring out more Black people to vote. Everything right now is to do everything to bring Black people to vote, number one, because that is what's going to save Biden. Because look, if you notice, Dynas, the people who are...
You can have this woman as your Black American man. This damn woman is not a Nigerian. It's a very annoying, irritative.
No,
have her, man.
Can you call her in a contact?
You don't see this crazy guy like this in Nigeria. This guy is crazy, man.
He's crazy. You know what did I do?
No, man,
she is Omo Niger, okay?
What did I do?
No, she's not. No. You don't want this kind of person in Nigeria.
Kidula, man.
He's Amanda Ngozi's sister.
Let me go to bed, but you can have us.
Kidula can't stand the American accent in her. She's still
let her be part of the Black American community, man. People can take us a refugee there too. You know, this woman is not an Igbo woman. She's just a refugee in America.
Black people do better under racism. Trump 2025.
I'm a refugee in America. Dynas, I'm going to not respond to that because then people will get mad at me. I'm not going to respond. There's plenty I can say, but I will not. I will be on my best behavior.
Okay. All right, guys. Listen, let me bring Jagoon back on. Go ahead, Jagoon.
Oh, thank you.
After you, I'm gonna pass the call. I'm gonna pass it back to Kala after you. Go ahead, Jagoon.
Pass it to Kala first. I'll listen.
Go ahead, Kala. Go ahead, Kala. Unmute yourself, Kala. Kala.
Oh yeah. I was thanks for passing the mic to me, Dynas. But yeah, like I said, this is a interesting civilized conversation. Hold up 1 second.
Dynas, he's speaking right now.
I'm gonna pass the mic. I'll be back in a second. Hold up.
We can catch the
political cackles. Go ahead and talk.
Biden is speaking right now.
It's not showing.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. I'm watching it right now.
I got it right here. It's not showing.
Yeah. Try PBS. Like I'm watching him
PBS,
right
okay,
now.
hold on. Let me try PBS. Hold on.
Walk away from Ukraine.
Hold on. Let me get...
That's exactly what we did.
Here we go.
What is this?
Oh, here we go. All right, guys. Here goes Sleepy Joe.
The answer to all those questions is yes. And I believe the American people understand that America is stronger because of our alliances. I believe the American consensus from Truman to Reagan to me still holds today. America cannot retreat from the world. We must lead the world. We're an indispensable nation, as Madeleine Albright wrote. Now let me turn to 3 other key issues. Just this morning, we had a great economic report showing inflation is down. Overall prices fell last month. Core inflation is the lowest it's been in 3 years. Prices are falling for cars, appliances, and airfares. Grocery prices have fallen since the start of the year. We're going to keep working to take down corporate greed to bring those prices down further. Meanwhile, Trump's calling for a 10% tariff on everything Americans buy, including food from overseas, vegetables, and other necessities. And economists tell us that would cost the average American working family another $2,500 a year. It's a tax of $2,500 a year. Second, our efforts to secure the border, southern border, is working. After Trump killed the bipartisan effort to secure the border, Republicans and Democrats had worked on, because he thought it would benefit me and make him a loser, Republicans walked away. So I took executive action last month. As a consequence, working with Mexico, border encounters have gone down over 50%. The current level is lower today than when Trump left office. Third, for months, the United States has been working to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, to bring the hostages home, to create a path for peace and stability in the Middle East. 6 weeks ago, I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There's still gaps to close. We're making progress. The trend is positive, and I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now. Let me conclude where I began. We're the United States of America. We are the indispensable nation. Our leadership matters. Our partnerships matter. This moment matters. We must rise to meet it. With that, I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here. Reuters, Jeff Mason.
Mr. President, your political future has hung over the NATO summit a little bit this week. Speaker Pelosi made a point of suggesting that your decision on whether to stay in the race was still open. George Clooney and a handful of lawmakers have called on you to step aside. Reuters is reporting tonight that UAW leadership is concerned about your ability to win.
UAW just endorsed me, but go ahead.
Thank you. My question for you is, how are you incorporating these developments into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president. I think she was
Did he say he would have picked? Hold on. Did he say he would have picked? Did he say he would have picked Vice President Trump to be president? Hold on. Did he say that?
Yo, this is a comedy sketch. Is this even real? Is this happening right now?
We all know it's a slip of
Bro, this is a joke. This is a joke, and we're being played right now.
It is a
Did
slip
he
of
say
tongue.
I should have picked Vice President Trump? Guys, did he say he would have picked Vice President Trump?
Come on, Diners. It is a slip of
running for
tongue.
office. Worry about the ticket is not unusual. And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now, later in the campaign. So it's a long way to go, this campaign. And so I'm just going to keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We got more work to finish. There's so much, we made so much progress. Think about it. Think about where we are economically relative to the rest of the world. Name me a world leader who wouldn't want to trade places with our economy. We've created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs, 1.5 million, so things are moving. We got more to go. Working class people still need help. Corporate greed is still at large. Their prices, the corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. They're coming down, and so I'm optimistic about where things are going. Danny Kemp, AFP.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today. And you now have sort of your key allies, including the British Prime Minister, the President of France, the German Chancellor having to step in and make excuses for you on that. Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing by leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys, the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference. I know it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders
This is a train wreck.
in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is well, anyway, I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. Next one, Nancy Cordes, CBS.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned other instances in history where presidents have faced a challenge, but what makes this moment in history so unique is that it is not your enemies who are calling on you to reconsider your decision to stay in the race. It's your friends, supporters, people who think you've done a great job over the past 4 years. Have you spent time thinking about what it would mean for your legacy, which you've worked decades to build, if you stay in the race, despite the concerns that voters say they have, and you lose to someone who you yourself have argued is unfit to return to the Oval Office?
Well, look, I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started. As you recall, understandably, many of you and many economists thought my initial initiatives that I put forward, can't do that, it's going to cause inflation, things are going to skyrocket, the debt's going to go up. What are you hearing now from mainstream economists? 16 economic Nobel laureates said I've done a hell of a job. That under my plan so far and what's going to happen in the future if I'm reelected, that things are going to get much better. Our economy is growing. I was determined when I got elected to stop the trickle-down economic theory, that if the wealthy did very well, everybody else would do well. My dad was a well-read, decent guy. I don't remember much trickling down on his kitchen table. Middle-class people and working-class people need help. And so what happened is I decided to was able to implement as president what I believed when I was a senator. And that is that the way to build this economy is from the middle out and the bottom up. That way we grow the economy. And the wealthy still do very well. They do fine. And guess what? Find me an economist, a mainstream economist who said we haven't done well. What have we not done that isn't working right now? And so we got more to do, though. We got to finish the job. And by the way, I come from the corporate state of the world. Delaware has more corporations registered in Delaware than every other state in the nation combined. I'm not anti-corporate, but corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic, doubled. It's time things get back in order a little bit. It's time, for example, if I'm reelected, we're going to make sure that rents are kept at 5% increase of corporate rents for apartments and the like in homes are limited to 5%. We're going to make a lot of changes that I've been talking about because we're going to continue to grow this economy. And by the way, remember how I got so roundly criticized for being so pro-union, not labor, union. Well, guess what? I've been the most pro-union labor president in history. Not a joke. And guess what? We had the Treasury Department do a study. When unions do better, everybody does better. Everybody does better. And we talk about how, for example, remember when we talked about getting the computer chip industry back in the United States? Used to be 40% of the industry. We invented the chip. 40% of the industry was in the United States. And former presidents decided that the best way to do it is find the cheapest labor in the world, send the product over there and import what the product was. And so what did I do? I was told not to go over to Asia, including Europe, but Asia. And I remember going to South Korea, convincing them to invest $20 billion in the United States to build computer chip factories. And I asked why when they finally decided to do it. And the answer was because you have the safest economy in the world and you have the best workers in the world. So the whole idea here is we've invested, there's over $50 billion in investment in computer chip manufacturing just coming in the bean. None of you thought that would happen. None of you thought that would happen. But it's happening. It's happening. and it's going to grow economies. All through, and by the way, red states and blue states. Matter of fact, there's as much in red states and blue states. I've made no distinction. So my generic point is that the idea that we can't continue to build and grow the economy, make it fairer. And like I said, from my standpoint, when the middle class does well, that's when the whole economy grows. The poor have a shot, the wealthy do well, but the wealthy got to start paying their taxes.
As a follow-up, sir, you mentioned that your Vice President Kamala Harris would be ready to serve on day one. Can you elaborate on that? What is it about her attributes and her accomplishments over the last 4 years that make her ready to serve on day one if necessary?
First of all, the way she's handled the issue of freedom of women's bodies to have control over their bodies. Secondly, her ability to handle almost any issue on the board. This was a hell of a prosecutor. She was a first-rate person, and in the Senate, she was really good. I wouldn't have picked her unless I thought she was qualified to be president.
in Ghana.
From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president. That's why I picked her. Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most straining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look, what I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting the fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home at 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you looked at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing. And I have, I don't know how many, don't hold me to it, roughly 20 major events. Someone with thousands of people showing up.
Is he crazy?
And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little more. Pace myself. And the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling in just 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, that's what it was about. That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that, I love my staff, but they add things all the time. At the very end, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway.
What?
I'm sorry, Zeke Miller, Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions for you. First, on the NATO summit, President Zelensky, in your meeting with him, he pressed you to lift your limitations on the Ukrainian use of American weapons, saying that, in his public remarks afterwards, saying that Ukraine cannot win the war unless those limitations are lifted. Are you reconsidering your position on that? And then secondly, following up on Felicia's question there, leaders of your own party have said that they're not worried about that debate. They're worried about the next bad night and the bad night after that. How can you reassure the American people that you are up to the task and that there won't be more bad nights at a debate stage or somewhere else?
First thing about Zelensky asking for the ability to strike deep into Russia. We've allowed Zelensky to use American weapons in the near term, in the near or abroad, into Russia. Whether or not he should be attacked. For example, should Zelensky, he's not. If he had the capacity to strike Moscow, strike the Kremlin, would that make sense? It wouldn't. The question is, what's the best use of the weaponry he has, the weaponry we're getting to him? I've gotten a more long-range capacity, as well as defensive capacity. And so our military is where I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. And we're making a day-to-day basis on what they shouldn't, how far they should go in. That's a logical thing to do. Second question related to
bad nights, sir. How can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or it's a matter of foreign policy?
Well, I tell you what, the best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's gotten more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs just last week. So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None. What do we got here? Merrick, Pulaski Radio.
Thank you, Mr. President. How are you?
I'm well.
The elections in the US have consequences around the world. You have pretty high standing in Europe. I just asked President Macron about you, and he said we are happy to have him as the President of the United States. But there is a concern. Many people in Poland and across Europe are worried that the former president may win the election. And there's a lot of concern that Donald Trump may weaken NATO, stop supporting Ukraine, or push Ukraine to give up territories to Russia.
They're correct.
And yourself was warning just 2 minutes ago about it. So my question is, do you think that Europe will be left on its own if Donald Trump wins the election? And what's your advice to European leaders to prepare for possible US disengagement?
Well, look, I think, how can I say this without sounding too self-serving? I'm not having any of my European allies come up to me and say, Joe, don't run. What I hear them say is, you've got to win. You can't let this guy come forward. It'd be a disaster. It'd be a disaster. I mean, I think he said in one of his rallies, don't hold me to this, recently, where NATO, I just learned about NATO or something to that effect. Foreign policy has never been his strong point. And he seems to have an affinity to people who are authoritarian. That worries, as I tell you from Poland, that worries Europe. That worries Poland. And nobody, including the people of Poland, think that if he wins in Ukraine, he's going to stop in Ukraine, that that's going to be the end of it. And so what I can say is, I think I'm the best qualified person to do the job, to make sure that Ukraine does not fall, that Ukraine succeeds, that the European alliance stays strong. You may recall, no one was talking about Finland joining NATO. I remember talking to Putin right after we got elected in Geneva, and he was talking about what we should do. We couldn't be in Eastern Europe, et cetera. And I said, you're looking for the Finlandization of Ukraine, because you're going to get the NATOization of Finland. And about 4 weeks later, I got a call. No, that's not true. Probably 5 months later, from the president of Finland, could he come and see me? Because in my office, and I invited him to the Oval Office. We sat down and talked. He said he wanted to join NATO. Could I help? And I did. It wasn't automatic. And then I got a call from the Swedes. I beg your pardon? And so Finland joined NATO, 800-mile border is a significant, and they're already allies, but they weren't part of NATO. And you heard, I think you heard, maybe I can't recall what he said publicly in our closed meeting, but he wouldn't mind being repeated. He said, we decided in Finland, the people of Finland decided they had to be part of NATO. It was in our interest because of the joint ability to be together to dissuade any attack on Finland. And the same thing with Sweden. It took a lot of selling to some folks, particularly in Turkey and other places, to agree to the expansion. But it expanded, and we're a hell of a lot stronger because of it. We're more secure because of it. And by the way, I was able to get 50 other nations, 50, to support Ukraine. 50. And we were able to bring about a coalition of Europe and Asia, Japan and South Korea. I just we talked about AUKUS, and we talked about the relationship between Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, the United States. We're making the world safer and stronger because we have to deal with the new arrangement that exists in the world. The Cold War is over. The post-war era is over. What is going to replace it? And I respectfully suggest I have a pretty good idea what that should be. I've convinced a lot of people to follow it, and we're just going to get stronger. David Sanger. Where's it?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Be nice, David.
Mr. President, the NATO declaration that was issued yesterday was very notable because it described China as a decisive enabler of the war in Ukraine for its provision of critical goods to the Russians. That's part of a broader partnership that seems to have cemented in place in the past 2 or 3 years. I think one that you were a little bit doubtful of when we asked you about it some time ago. So I'd be interested to know whether you have a strategy now of trying to interrupt the partnership between China and Russia, and whether or not in a second term you would pursue that, if you could describe that strategy to us. And along the way, could you also tell us whether you think, just to follow up on Felicia's question, that if you were in a room with Vladimir Putin again, the way you were 3 years ago, or with President Xi, that a few years from now you will be able to go negotiate with them, handle them one-on-one?
Well, the first part of the question is, we discussed and I raised in the NATO summit, and others raised, the future of China's involvement, what they're going to do, what they're doing with Russia in terms of accommodating, facilitating them. They're getting access to additional, they're not supplying weapons themselves, they're supplying mechanisms for them to be able to get weapons. And China's position is basically, and I've spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has, over 90 hours since being vice president all the way through, for real. And by the way, I handed all my notes. But my point is that Xi believes that China is a large enough market that they can entice any country, including European countries, to invest there in return for commitments from Europe to do A, B, C, or D, or not to do certain things. What's happened is we had a long discussion about what we have to make clear China has to understand that if they are supplying Russia with information and capacity, along with working with North Korea and others to help Russia in armament, that they're not going to benefit economically as a consequence of that by getting the kind of investment they're looking for. And so, for example, we're in a situation where we've reestablished direct contact with China after that. Remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down, all of a sudden things came to an end? Well, we set up a new mechanism There's a direct line between she and me, and our military has direct access to one another, and they contact one another when we have problems. The issue is that we have to make sure that she understands there's a price to pay for undercutting both the Pacific Basin as well as Europe, and as it relates to Russia and dealing with Ukraine. And so for example, if you want to invest in China, as you know this area really well. If you want to invest in China, you have to have a 51% Chinese owner. You have to make sure that you do by their rules. And you don't have the authority, and you have to provide all access to all the data and information you have. There was a while there, as you recall, the last administration and other administrations, where the access to that market was enticing enough to get companies to come in because they had access to over 1 billion people in a market, not 1 billion, but a lot of people in the market. And so they were doing it. But that got curtailed when we started saying we're going to play by the same rules. For example, the idea they don't abide by the international rules related to subsidizing products by the government funding. So guess what? They're not going to be able to export their electric vehicles to the United States without a significant tariff. Others are doing the same thing around the world. But it is a concern. It is a concern that you have both China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, countries that are not necessarily coordinated in the past, looking to figure out how they can have impact.
Do you have a strategy to interrupt that impact?
Yes, I do, but I'm not prepared to talk about the detail of it in public. And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. In China, as long as China continues to have this indirect help to Russia in terms of being able to help their economy as well as help them in, as a consequence of that, their ability to fight in Ukraine. The other thing that we talked a lot about is that, and I raised it, and I didn't hear any. I can't swear that everyone agreed because not everyone got to talk about it. But we need a new industrial policy in the West. For example, we talked about how both the EU as well as NATO has to be able to begin to build their own munition capacity, has to be able to generate their own capacity to provide for weapons and the ability to, it came as a surprise to some of us how we had fallen behind in the West in terms of the ability to construct new material, new weaponry, new everything from vehicles to weapon systems. And so one of the things that came out of this was we're going to be meeting again with a number of my colleagues, my European colleagues, is what do we do to increase the capacity of the West, particularly in Europe and Japan, to be able to generate the kind of ability to produce their own weapon systems. Not just for themselves, but to be able to generate that. It's the same, that's what Russia's trying to figure out. That they went to China and they didn't get the weapons, but then they went to North Korea. But we're going to be in a position where the West is going to become the industrial base for the ability to have all the defensive weapons that we need. That was a discussion as well.
President, I'm not sure you answered on whether you would be ready to go deal with Putin and Xi 2 or 3 years from now.
I'm ready to deal with them now and 3 years from now. Look, like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior. And but there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with. But I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem. First of all, in this war that he is supposedly have won, and by the way, I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think that Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful. They've caused horrible damage and loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded. They've over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there. They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, but so I think that I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk. Last time I talked to Putin was trying to get him to work on an arms control agreement related to nuclear weapons in space. That didn't go very far. So my point is, I'm prepared to talk to anybody, but I don't see any inclination. There is an inclination on the part of the Chinese to keep in contact with me because they're not sure where this all goes. And look what's happened in Asia. We have strengthened the Asian Pacific area more than anyone else has. We just put together with today. I asked our NATO allies that we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia. And I met twice now, I think, with the 14 leaders of the Pacific Island nations. And we've slowed down what's going on there. We've slowed down China's reach. But there's a lot of work to do. This is a moving target, and I don't take it lightly. Assam from NPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. Asma Khalid with NPR. I have two questions. Earlier, you spoke about the ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas. We're now looking at 10 months of war, and I'm curious if there's anything that you feel personally you wish you would have done differently over the course of the war. And then secondly, if I may, I wanted to ask you about your presidential campaign. I remember covering your campaign in 2020, and there was a moment where you referred to yourself as a, quote, bridge candidacy, a transition to a younger generation of leaders. I want to understand what changed.
Two things. Let's go back to when you talked about would I change anything that's happening with Israel and the Palestinians and the Palestinian movement. The answer is, as you recall, from the very beginning, I went to Israel, but I also got immediate contact with al-Sisi in Egypt. I met with the King of Jordan. I met with most of the Arab leaders to try to get a consensus going as to what had to be done to deal with getting more aid and food and medicine into the Gaza Strip. And we pushed it really hard. And Israel occasionally was less than cooperative, number one. The Israeli War Cabinet, I've been dealing with Israel since Golda Meir. I've saw some of the reporters around here come all the time have heard me say this. The first time I met with Golda Meir, I sat across from her at her desk, and her assistant was Rabin sitting next to me. That's how far back I go. I know Israel well, and I support Israel. But this war cabinet is one of the most conservative war cabinets in the history of Israel. And there's no ultimate answer other than a two-state solution here. And so what was able to be done in terms of the plan I put together was it would be a process for a two-state solution. And we get the Arab nations to, particularly from Egypt all the way to Saudi Arabia, to be in a position where they would cooperate in the transition so that they could keep the peace in Gaza without Israeli forces staying in Gaza. The question has been from the beginning, what's the day after in Gaza? And the day after in Gaza has to be, the end of the day after has to be no occupation by Israel on the Gaza Strip, as well as the ability for us to get in and out as rapidly as you can, all that's needed there. I've been disappointed that some of the things that I've put forward have not succeeded as well, like the port reattached from Cyprus. I was hopeful that would be more successful. But that's why when I went to Israel immediately after the massacres that occurred at the hands of Hamas, the one thing I said to the Israelis, and I met with the War Cabinet and with Bibi, don't make the same mistake America made after bin Laden. There's no need to occupy anywhere. Go after the people who did the job. You may recall, I still get criticized for it, but I was totally opposed to the occupation and trying to unite Afghanistan. Once we got bin Laden, we should have moved on, because it was not no one's ever going to unite that country. I've been over every inch of that, not every inch, the entirety from the poppy fields all the way to the north. I said, don't make the same mistake we made. Don't think that's what you should be doing, is doubling down. We'll help you find the bad guys, Sinwar and company. And all this criticism about I wouldn't provide when the weapons they needed. I'm not providing them 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or any populated area without causing great human tragedy and damage. But remember what happened when you had the attack on Israel with rockets and ballistic missiles. I was able to unite the Arab nations as well as Europe, and nothing happened. Nothing got hurt. It sent an incredible lesson to what was going on from the Middle East. So there's a lot of things, in retrospect, I wish I had been able to convince the Israelis to do. But the bottom line is we have a chance now. It's time to end this war. Doesn't mean walk away from going after Sinwar and Hamas. And if you notice, you know better than most, there is a growing dissatisfaction on the West Bank from the Palestinians about Hamas. Hamas is not popular now. And so there's a lot of moving parts. I just have to keep moving to make sure that we get as much done as we can toward a ceasefire, and get those. And by the way, look at the numbers in Israel. I mean, my numbers are better in Israel than they are here. But then again, they're better than a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
Your bridge candidacy in 2020, you referred to yourself as being a bridge candidate for a younger, fresher generation of Democratic leaders. And I wanted to know what changed.
What changed was the gravity of the situation I inherited in terms of the economy, our foreign policy, and domestic division. And I think, I won't put words in anybody's mouth. Most presidential historians give me credit for having accomplished more than most any president since Johnson and maybe before that to get major pieces of legislation passed. And what I realized was my long time in the Senate had equipped me to have the wisdom to know how to deal with the Congress to get things done. We got more major legislation passed that no one thought would happen. And I want to finish it, to get that finished. If tomorrow, if we had a circumstance where there was a lineup and I hadn't inherited what I did and we just moved things along, anyway, it's going to change.
Last question.
Haley Bull, Scripps. Or no, Josh Weingrove, I'm sorry, was the next one. I'll do 2 more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of your colleagues, Democrats in the Hill, are watching tonight as they assess what they want to say about your candidacy. I'm wondering how you're thinking of this right now. It seems like your answer is clear, but they're watching how things go tonight, tomorrow in Michigan, next week in Texas and Nevada. Are you thinking that way about whether how the next week or 2 goes would inform you?
Am I using that way, you said?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision, or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out, for the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway. And so what I'm doing is, and I've been doing, I think we've done over 20 major events from Wisconsin to North Carolina to demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win, where we can persuade people to move our way, where people are already there. And then look, the other thing is, we have the most extensive campaign organization of anybody's had in a long, long time. We have well over 1,000 volunteers knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls. We have headquarters, I forget exactly how many, I want to cite a number and then find out I'm off, but we have scores of headquarters in all the toss-up states. We're organized, we're moving, and that's awful hard to replace in the near term. And so, and here's the other thing. I was in the Senate a long time. Very proud of what I've done in the Senate. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for a long time, and I was chairman or ranking member and chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I'm going to be going down to the Johnson Library. Anyway, I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish and how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide on civil rights, civil liberties, women's rights. There's that little button we have. Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea, we're sitting around, this where Kamala is so good as well. We're sitting around, more children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing? We got a candidate saying, promising, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. You got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history. This is ridiculous. There's so much we can do still, and I'm determined to get it done. It's about freedom. And by the way, I'll end this. Well, I'm not going to do that. Haley has to come up too. But I remember I made the speech on democracy in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. And I'm not being critical, just observing. The bulk of the press, what the hell is he talking about that for? Democracy. You did. Democracy is not an issue. Democracy is not an issue. Except the polling data shows 60% of the people knew I was right, thought I was right. I'm not asking you a question. You don't have to answer, obviously. But do you think our democracy is under siege based on this court? Do you think democracy is under siege based on Project 2025? Do you think he means what he says when he says he's going to do away with the civil service, eliminate the Department of Education, make sure, We've never been here before. And that's the other reason why you say hand off to another generation. I've got to finish this job. I've got to finish this job because there's so much at stake.
We've had some discussions over the past few days with your press secretary about the question of health exams. And you said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look, two things. One, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist. In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay? Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity to do decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember with the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II. I'm going to move and see that we can expand it. You know, the only thing age does is help you with it. It creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention. And so the point I'm making is, I think it's important that if the neurologist tells me he thinks I need another exam, and by the way, I've laid every bit of the record out. Hadn't hidden a thing. You ought to ask Trump for his, okay? I laid it all out. And every single day, I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you, or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it. But no one's suggesting that to me now. And I'll ask you another question. No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? Who'd you have? Did you do this? How many times? So I am not opposed if my doctors tell me I should have another neurological exam, I'll do it. But that's where I am. Haley Bull, Scripps.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis when it comes to support for Ukraine. Does that mean you have not closed the door on further considering lifting restrictions for U.S.-made weapons inside Russia? And if I may, your convention is coming up where your delegates are pledged to make you the official nominee. If they have second thoughts, are they free to vote their conscience?
Obviously, they're free to do whatever they want, but I get overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. I won, I forget how many votes I won in the primary. Overwhelming. And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
Even if that means they vote for someone else?
Sure. Look, I'll end this with this. I served in the Senate a long time. I understand the impetus of candidates running for local office and whether they think the topic can help them or not. In my state of Delaware, which was a very, at least a purple, it was a red state when I started, in terms of we now talk red and blue. I don't recall most of the Democratic presidents winning my state when I was a candidate. The truth of the matter is I understand the self-interest of a candidate. If they think that, running with Biden at the top is going to hurt them, then they're going to run away. I get it. But so far, go and look at the polling data in their states. Look at the in-depth, and by the way, I think you'd all acknowledge, and you're all experts. I'm not being solicitous about the president. You're experts on this stuff. How accurate does anybody think the polls are these days? I can give a series of polls where you have likely voters, me versus Trump, where I win all the time. When the unlikely voters vote, he wins sometimes. The bottom line is all the polling data right now, which I think is premature because the campaign really hasn't even started. I mean, it hadn't started in earnest yet. Most of the time, it doesn't start till after September, after Labor Day. So a lot can happen. But I think I'm the best I believe I'm the best qualified to govern. And I think I'm the best qualified to win. But there are other people who could beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch. And, you know, we talk about, you know, money raised. We're not doing bad. We got about $220 million in the bank. We're doing well. So with that, do you have any want to follow up on any of that? And just ask me.
Yes. You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No polls.
This ends tonight's press conference. Thanks, everybody.
Bro, what was that?
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Political calculus, go ahead. Political calculus, you there?
Dynast.
Yes.
My God.
Yeah, go ahead. You there? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna just say this, man. Like I was saying in the chat here, I don't think the other people got to see. Like with all the smart people in this country, you know, some of us have worked at companies with incredibly smart people, incredibly gifted leaders. How is it that this guy is the one running the country? How do you explain it? It's not explainable.
Is vote blue no matter who. That's how he's running the country. Colin, you want to add to this, Colin, before we close out? Colin, you there? Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family. Down in Samir, search for I'm reading these comments. All right.
Appreciate you, big dog.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.